Are you ready for it?
I'm a real tough kid. I can handle my shit. They said fake it, gotta fake it till you make it, and I did.
I'm just a terrible person, I guess.
Ice camera bitch. Even when you wanna die. Breaking down, I hit the floor. All the pieces of me shattered as the crowd was chanting more. With a broken heart.
Who's afraid of little old me? And good evening. Why is that so freaking bright? My thing's like gone bright. Hold on. We got a technical. My light just look at this. I look like I'm like go into the light. Go into the light. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I am Sarah the Raging Tomato here, bringing to you yet another, probably the 898th. I choked on that one. Throwdown Thursday. Oh my god, I can't even talk. Sorry, I choked on that one a little bit. I don't even know where I was. Throwdown Thursday. I've got with me tonight Wick TV here to talk about the Trump administration is claiming that the immigration policies are bad and that ICE behavior makes it worse. You know, this is going to be a rough panel, right?
I'm ready. It
It's going to
won't
be
be as rough as apparently talking, which is causing us all problems tonight. But we'll get
I
through
know. I am like, it's like I haven't done a show in 4 days. Oh my goodness. What the hell?
it. You've had me on before. You don't need to be nervous. I'm just an average
You just,
guy. Okay.
you fixed your hair tonight. You put on a nice t-shirt for me. You look handsome as ever, and I'm just blushing to the core. I'm a blushing tomato. You got me. I'm gone. That's it. So, all right. Mr. Wick. Why is it Wick TV anyways? Why Wick?
Well, when I was before I started streaming, I used to do a lot of role playing, and my character's name was Wick, and
Oh.
I just transferred it. That's it.
What kind of role play are we talking about here?
I
Like
used to play
cosplay?
a game from the AOL days called Gemstone, and it moved to the World Wide Web once AOL went defunct, and it was like a text-based MMORPG. I played it for years and years, and yeah, grew up playing it. And that's what I did. So that's where I am.
Oh, that makes
So,
sense to me. It
yeah.
works. I
It
always
was
thought it was.
it's
I
such
always
a weird game because when I left, when I finally got out of it and I cashed out, I made like 10,000 US dollars selling all my stuff. And
Really?
yeah,
Why? I don't
because
remember, the games. I mean, I remember ASL, right? Like, what's your
yeah,
A what's your ASL? I remember the
I'm a Teen
chat
F Japan.
rooms.
Yeah.
What's your cup size? Um, but I don't remember games on there.
Yeah, they had a few. They had this
Oh,
like Mech Warrior game I really enjoyed. They had like Dragon Realms, Gemstone. Remember, I was like 13 at the time, so they were like really big. And I was like,
that's
yeah,
weird.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's
Oh,
where we are.
well, I mean, I always thought it was like a candle wick. I mean, obviously not spelled the right way, but I always just thought of your name as like a candle in the wind, like
A
the wick.
candle in the wind, like that
You know?
Elton John song.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It
Not
always
sure if those are
reminds
the
me
vibes
of
I'm
it.
going for, right? But fair enough.
Well, let's switch the vibe over. Tell me, Mr. Wick from the game, from the role play thing,
Hmm,
whatever. Tell me about this administration. Why
sure.
are the immigration policies bad? And why is ICE behavior making it worse?
So I think one of the things I saw today, I think, is illustrative of an attitude held by many in the Trump administration, but also by many in MAGA in general. Momdi, I think that's how you pronounce his name, recently won the primary runoff thing they had
Mhm.
in New York City for mayor. Today, a Republican congressman from Tennessee, I believe, wrote to the White House and asked that Momdi be denaturalized. In other words, his citizenship status revoked
Mhm.
and he be deported because he's Muslim and because he's apparently socialist. And this attitude of taking people who have come here the right way, the correct way.
Mhm.
I'm not talking about illegals at this point, but we're going to get into that as well tonight. But people who are on student visas, who are on H-1B visas, who are on here in OPT program, which is a program that allows them after they've studied here in a science or tech or medicine to work in the US for about 12 months, right?
Yeah.
In kind of like an apprenticeship program, if you will. These things have been attacked by the administration. And it is a problem. And then when you look into how that they are enforcing these new kind of standards, if you want to call them that, for who does and does not count as a citizen, you can look at the degradations that ICE is engaged in. You have people who aren't wearing badges, they're not wearing a uniform, they have no identifying badge numbers or anything like that. They don't provide a warrant in many cases. They're masked up. You can't even see their face. They're snatching people off the street. They're putting them in black vans, and in many cases, disappearing them into the deportation system.
Okay.
Them for weeks and weeks before they're even allowed to contact family or lawyers. And it's a travesty, and it's creating this chaos, not only for people who are here illegally, but people who are legal here who worry that they're going to be next to be targeted, to be denaturalized, to have their student visas revoked because they may
Mhm.
said something in an op-ed once that the administration didn't like. And this is an ongoing problem, and it's putting ICE agents in danger because obviously when you have people running up on someone, like imagine you're in the street, right? And you're walking, maybe you're at a cafe or something, and you see a woman suddenly get surrounded by 6 guys with masks, who don't have badges. They're not SWAT, they're not police, and they just put them to the ground, handcuff them, and throw them in a van. Eventually, that looks like a kidnapping to me. That looks like a gang kidnapping to me. Eventually, it's going to
Mhm.
be a problem, and people are going to react to try to defend someone that they think is just being attacked by people who are acting like thugged vigilantes. And I think that this is a problem also because if we can't know who they are, how can we hold them accountable when they do something wrong? When they go and they tackle a citizen to the ground and beat the shit out of the citizen, and then we want to hold them accountable. So why did you do that? Have a punishment available, like we do for cops. When cops do something wrong, we hold them accountable for doing something wrong. That's why they have to have badge numbers. That's why they have to wear in uniform, etc. And this is just making it harder to even hold anyone accountable. And I think that this is by design. This is what the Trump administration wants to happen. And they want to create this chaos and this level of fear because they want people to self-deport and they want people not to come here. And that's kind of my thesis statement for tonight. That the Trump administration's way that they are going about enforcing immigration policy, which I think is bad in the first place, the way that they're doing it is even worse, and it's creating chaos, confusion, and in many cases, I feel is violating people's rights.
Do you think that for the men wearing masks that you're
Mm.
saying, like they're covered up when they're doing these, I guess, retrievals, we could
Detainment.
call them detainments.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe that's for their safety because the heat is on right now so much on ICE and deportation that I feel like any ICE members would be at high risk, not only in their privacy, but their personal lives, their families, because it's such a hot topic. I mean, obviously, we had the um, what are those things called? Those demonstration things, the riots and all of that,
Protest riots, whatever you want to call them.
protests, riots,
People got
all in
cell
that
phones now, right?
realm,
So, yeah.
right? And I mean, I know if I were a police officer or law enforcement of some sort, and there was a very high profile thing going on that's highly targeted, I'd for my safety, because these men are just doing their jobs, right? That's how we have to look at it. That's how I look at it. They're receiving orders from above and they're just doing their job. So their level of safety, I mean, for instance, like we don't put our names out there, right? Because we're in highly contentious types of shows and there's crazy people on the internet. So we try to keep our privacy as much as we can, to keep our safety levels higher. Um, so do you think that that's a piece of that?
Oh, certainly that's the reason that this is being given. But you were in the military, correct? I think you said
Hmm.
that live on air before, right? When
Hmm.
you were acting as a service member, did you have to wear a uniform?
Yes.
Do you think that having our armed servicemen in uniform in a combat zone, does that increase the risk to them?
Armed uniform or I'm sorry, uniform in a combat zone,
Mhm.
assuming with your last name across your chest.
Yep.
Um, uh, yes and no.
Yes and no?
Yeah. So, for instance, I say in one way, yeah, anybody could go and look up that last name, and they could, but they would essentially be
Oh, sorry.
terrorists or something to that degree, right?
Or what I mean by that, right, more in danger is it identifies you to the enemy that you're fighting as a
Hmm.
target, right? That's someone we can shoot at because they're in uniform.
Hmm.
Now, we require people who are engaged in combat, right? Our armed
Hmm.
servicemen and other militaries to be in uniform, even though it puts them at higher risk because it would be much safer if they all dressed in civvies, right? They would be able to operate much safer. The enemy wouldn't have a harder time knowing who to target, right? And it would be able they would be able to blend in with the crowd better, and it would keep them safe.
Well,
But we
no,
don't allow that.
your
Why?
uniform essentially allows you actually for camouflage ability, like especially now they have the digicams, so even to the the camera lens, right? Even it blinds you from the camera lens, for instance. So no, actually the uniform in the military is meant to take you off the target point, and hide you more.
Well, civilian uniforms, or civilian gear is a form of camouflage in a civilian setting, right? So, and
If
yes,
you're yeah, if you're
digicam
blending
on
in, if you're
if you're in an urban setting,
undercover, yeah, if
if
you're
you're in an urban setting,
undercover, yeah, if you're
but
undercover, yeah, that makes sense.
we don't which ICE is operating in, to be clear. They're operating in urban settings, right, for the most part.
Mhm.
Um, and they're going to towns and things like that. Home Depots, nail salons, etc. Right. So when they don't wear a uniform, what it does is, yes, it makes it quote unquote safer for them, but it makes it more dangerous for everyone else. There has been a spike in crimes of people impersonating ICE officers and police officers in general
Mhm.
because they know that this is happening. They know that ICE is failing to identify themselves, ICE is masking up, and it's much easier for them to pretend to be ICE agents, to go in, to uh, scare off the employees, to tie them up. In one case, they handcuffed a lady and then took the cash register basically and stole like $1,000 all the time while saying, "Oh, we're from the federal government, and if you fight back, you're going to be prosecuted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this has
Mhm.
always happened to a degree, but it's happening more now because people are aware that this is happening. My point here is that while, yes, wearing a uniform, such as a police officer or a military person or any of these people we give insane amounts of power to, does increase the risk to them, but that's part of the job that they accept when they do this. And we do it for a very good reason because we want to be able to hold accountable bad actors. Like there's a reason you and I, as streamers, aren't really required. We have a lot more privacy than someone acting for the federal government does, right?
Mhm.
Because we have a lot less power. I can't deport people, right? I can't detain people. I ain't going to show up at your house
You don't
and
think
arrest you.
influence is more powerful?
Not
It's that influence that pushes the audience, the people one way. I think influence is more powerful than just handcuffing people and taking them away, right? Because essentially the people have all as a whole agreed that this is good, right? Because we're allowing it, and there is some pushback from the left, but the reason why we all got on board with this was because there's an influential piece coming down that tells us reasons why we should think it's okay. Influence is
so
very strong.
influence is strong, but you would recognize it as a different kind of strength than hard power. So you have soft
Well,
power,
yeah.
you have
Yeah.
hard power. I would much rather, right, have someone try to influence me to do something than someone deport me or detain me until I do something. I would much rather have someone try to influence people to be against me than I would to have armed agents show up at my house, hold me at gunpoint, handcuff me, throw me in the back of a van and disappear me. There are different levels here, right?
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
most part. Okay, depending on who's doing it. Fair enough. Okay, if you wanted to come to my house and deport me, we can talk. But that's a different conversation than what we're
Start a
talking about
whole
tonight.
new business. I will come
Okay.
to your house and pretend to deport you. I will throw
I
you
don't
in
know
the back
if
of the van.
if mass people
Bye.
show up to my house, I have a gun. It's not going to go well. I'm just saying. And look,
That's it. I'm starting a new one. It's gonna work.
look.
Guys, as I
eh,
put my stiletto on your throat.
oh
I'm
no.
from ice. Oh my god, my mind just went straight to the gutter. I apologize.
Focus, man. Focus. We're here for a reason. Okay, we're here for a reason. What we're talking about tonight, right, is do we trust a federal agency to have enough power where they routinely do not have to tell us who they are, why they are here, and what they are doing, right? And they don't
Mhm.
have to give any kind of reasoning other than we're just going to go in quick, hard, and get it done. And look, there are arguments, and uh, I would find them reasonable arguments if they were going into a cartel stronghold and they wanted to mask up and just kind of do a sting operation and undercover thing because then they're in actual real danger. The cartel are horrible people and they'll kill them, right, if they found them.
Mhm.
But they're not doing that, and they're not doing that on purpose. So back in I want to say May, it might have been March. Stephen Miller. Do you know who Stephen Miller is?
Like Stephen Miller Band?
Not the Stephen Miller Band, unfortunately. He's a guy in I think he's a chief deputy or something in the Trump administration. The title, for whatever reason, is escaping my mind, but he's a high up. He's a uppity up in the Trump administration. He's in charge of a lot of things. He's got a finger in a lot of pies. Um, he's a terrible person, frankly. But he recently has he went to the ICE headquarters basically, and he kind of authored a change in policy for them. So
Mhm.
previously, and I'm talking the first like few weeks of the Trump admin, they were targeting and focusing on violent criminals. Okay. That was the lead up to, and Trump ran on this, right? It's like, we're going to deport the violent criminals. We're going to find the gang members. We're going to find all these people and we're going to get them and we're going to deport them. The problem that they were running into is it's really, really hard to find and arrest a violent criminal like that, because especially a gang member, because they have resources and they will hide from you, and they're pretty good at it, right? To an extent, okay? They're pretty good at it. And so it might take you 100 hours to set up, find, and arrest a cartel member, right? It might take you quite a bit of time, but it's a quality arrest. You have someone that is a violent criminal and you take them off the streets. But the numbers weren't that high. They weren't getting the numbers they needed. According to the Wall Street Journal, right? They were on track to deport less people than Biden did in 2024, which is, a problem, especially for Trump. And so they thought, you know what? Instead of going after these guys, because they're hard to go after, let's go to schools. Let's go to hospitals. Let's go to Home Depot. Let's go to the people who are actually showing up for their immigration hearings. Let's go find the people who are, married to Marines or something, right? And we're going to deport them because they're easy. We know where they are. We can find them. They're not violent. We're at very little risk. And we can get our numbers up astronomically. And so Stephen Miller and May, they went to and they changed the policy. And that's what they've been doing since then. There was a little kerfuffle in the Trump admin where he initially said, well, you know what? This is going too far. We're deporting. I don't know if you saw the tweet he made about how they're going to put a pause in deporting from farm workers and things like that because it was hurting the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
But he's since gone back on that. I would assume at the words of Stephen Miller, who's the author of a lot of this. And this is, again, creating a situation where, ironically, because ICE is not focused on the criminals anymore, the criminals are going free while the people who are following the law and at nail salons and working at Home Depot and things like that are the ones being targeted and arrested. And look, I'm okay with deportations in general if you do it the right way, but I would argue that the way ICE is doing it is not the right way. It's putting, again, mass. Go ahead, please.
The kind of like the war on drugs, right?
Oh yeah.
Where do cops typically start when they want to take down the big kahuna?
Oh, they'll find a patsy, someone to rat. They'll look for the low level guys. They'll bring them in.
They start at the bottom. They start at the bottom, and eventually, what they do is they will basically bring in the bottom feeders, right? Start there. Now they are obviously threatened because it's like, yeah, I can put you in jail. I can do this. I can, put you away for this amount of time, that, or you can just tell me who's next in line, right? And in my mind, that's how I look at this whole scenario is tell me who's next in line. I'll let you go back home. I'll let you go back to your world. I'll even give you papers so that you're cleared out, but tell me who's next in line. Because typically that kind of behavior, or everybody knows somebody, everybody's connected and knows something, right? So that's how I view the situation. And that would be how, if I wanted to strategize and take down the big kahunas, the bad actors, I'm starting at the bottom, 110%, and I will use every bit of be under my thumb, take advantage, coercion, threat, whatever that I possibly can. Because if you're here illegally, number one, I have the power to manipulate that to my advantage, right? As the government, as the law enforcement, I can 110% say, you are here illegally. You do not belong here. If you want to stay, here's what I need, right?
But why would someone working at Home Depot who jumped the border because they needed a job, why would they know anything about cartels or who's a bad guy or be connected to any of this?
How did they get here? You just said
Usually
they
by
jumped the
overstaying their
border,
visas.
or through a trade, or through like like all of these different scenarios. They had to know somebody to be able to get the right paperwork made or the right things put in place in order to be able to stay. How do you get that social security number? How do you get this? Who's the next person in line? So then you go to that guy.
Actually, that's not how most people come here illegally. unfortunately. Most people who are here illegally come because they overstay their visas. So in other words, we allow them in to vacation here or for a period to work here or do something on the up and up. And they apply for it and they're like, okay, you can only stay here this long. And once your visa's expired, you got to go. And then they just don't go. So
Mhm.
it's not usually,
But how are they still working then?
well, because a lot of companies will just hire them under the table because of tax reasons.
I mean,
Especially
yeah, maybe
farmers and
there's
things like that.
cash workers. Yeah, maybe there's cash workers, but that's an expense that employer has to put somewhere. He's got to write that in the books somewhere, right? So how is he writing it in the books?
I don't know enough
That's a
about how
that's
to manipulate the system right like that. But again, most of these people aren't coming through like migrant crossings or things like that. That's just not.
but I'm sure they know somebody who is.
Do they? Why would they?
I you've got to be in tune with something, right? Like in order to be able to pull off what you put like if you overstay your visa, your paperwork's out there, your address is out there, something's out there, and if it's not, you found a way to work the system. So where's that coming through? You got to know a guy. Everybody's got to know a guy. Who knows a guy? Who knows a guy?
I think you would be surprised at how easy it is to just kind of disappear in these things and how little people take thought to checking even references. I don't know if you've ever applied for a job where you have to give references and things like that. They don't actually check these things for the
I
most part.
I checked people's references all the time.
Look, I used to look back in the day when I was younger and dumber and less good of a person. I would make shit up on my resume all the time, right? All the
Really?
time. Didn't get
Oh my
checked.
God. Well, I was the director of compliance. It was literally my job to check all of that stuff.
Well, you know what?
Literally.
You did your job
I
well.
did my
A lot of
job.
people don't do their job well, and some people, like I said,
Yeah,
on
but how do
purpose
they go in
because
the
it's
system
cheaper.
then? How do if they're so much as even submitting a if you go to a job and there is no resume, there's no application, it's just like show up at this place at this time, you get paid cash at the end of the day, right? There are no references you're checking. But if you're actually submitting a resume or an application, you will be W-2'd, you will be HR'd, you will be all of these things. And that's where the paperwork comes in. And that's what I'm saying. They have to have something built in place in order to be able to who was it here was saying like, oh, they are paying taxes, they're using, like fake social security numbers, but they're paying taxes, they're doing all of these things. So that number one right there, how's somebody able to get a hold of the paperwork to be able to, get a paycheck and to have a different name or to have a different social security or to have the address and all of these things. So I know a guy that knows a guy. I want the guy. If I'm the government, I want the guy. And then when I get that guy, I want the next guy. When I get that guy, I want the next guy. And if you can just work your way up the little pyramid and you're dismantling the whole thing from the bottom, right? If you pull all the bottom feeders and you pull the next guy, you pull the next guy, eventually it's going to start to crumble anyways. And the big kahuna is going to show his face, right?
So
That's how I look at it. That's strategy.
certainly, but the administration has said publicly that they are not going after criminals and their focus is not criminals. It's quantity over quality, in their words. This is what they say. Now, you can say that they're lying, and fair enough. Maybe it's all a ruse, right? But unfortunately for these things, I kind of got to take them at their word on, hey, this is what we're doing. And then I see them doing that. I think it's a good assumption to make that, oh, they said they were going to do this. They started doing this. They're probably doing this. I don't see anything since CCOT, which we'll talk about in a second here, because the way they did that was terrible as well. They really haven't done any kind of huge, big name, violent
Huge.
arrests. In fact, most of the people that they have detained right now are no criminal record at all.
Mhm.
And a lot of them who do have criminal records. And to keep in mind, for ICE, they considered a criminal record if you were charged with reckless driving and then the case was dismissed. If the case was dismissed, they still consider you to be a criminal.
Is
And
it
keep
process
that
of
in mind.
elimination? I
What do you
mean,
mean process of elimination?
I'm gonna go round up every person that I find to be illegal, even if they're good people, nice people. I'm still gonna round them all up if you're here illegally. And through that, I've got process of elimination that I'm gonna hit the right one eventually. That's gonna lead me to the right place, right? And if all of these people are non-criminal, we still
Non-violent
view
criminal, to be clear, because technically breaking,
non-violent,
you know,
right?
being an illegal
Non-violent
immigrant means you're
criminal.
illegal, right?
That's what I was going to go to is, well, you still broke the law. You overstayed your visa. You climbed over the wall. You snuck in. You did this. You did that. Like that. That to me is still wrong. If I went and did that to any other country, I could just get shot and killed right where I stand.
Okay. In the Western world, if you break into Britain, they're not going to shoot and kill you, for
Right.
example, or most of
But
Europe. But I can understand what you mean, like China.
if I try to sneak into Mexico, they would probably just one bullet and call it a day, right? I mean, come on. I think we're being pretty nice.
Well, but we're not is the problem. We're
We're
sending
not
them.
being
And
nice
this is a
enough.
good
We're
opening for
not
a CCOT.
being nice enough. Okay, go
Well,
ahead.
it's no. The problem isn't we're being nice enough; is we're not following proper procedures. CCOT, for example, I'll give you this. Do you remember? I think it was in March where they flew all those supposed gang members in on a plane, packed them all on a plane, sent them to El Salvador to CCOT there, and they were like,
Mhm.
"We got all these Tren de Agua gang members off the street." There was a big to do over Trump specifically, invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1796 or something, and that they were using this to be able to deport all these people, these violent criminals, to CCOT. The problem I have with this is that they sent people to a foreign prison. And again, they didn't just put them in a plane and send them to their home country and let them go. They sent them to prison. And they did that without so much as a trial. They didn't give the people the opportunity to first of all, they didn't know where they were being deported when they were deported. A lot of them thought they were going back to Venezuela, and they told their family and friends, "Hey, we're probably going to go back to Venezuela." They're putting on a plane, things like that. They didn't find out where they were going until the last minute. And second of all, they weren't allowed to answer the charges given to them. Thirdly, a lot of we now know the process for determining who and was not a gang member was very spurious. So, for example, there was a gay hairdresser, and the reason, and this is what ICE says, to be clear, this is what the government says. The reason that he was a gang member is because he had a mom and a dad tattoo with crowns on on his arms. And that was enough to consider him a gang member, to give him no due process, and to put him in a foreign prison where he was not allowed to contact lawyers or his family. His family found out about it because they saw a reporter post a photo of him being shaved and beaten by the CCOT guards. And that is, again, we're not just talking taking them out of the country and putting them back to their home and then letting them go. We're talking about sending them to prison. And that, to me, requires a higher burden on the government to do that to anyone than it would be to just take them and ship them out of the country. Like
Was he
if that's all they
here?
were doing, we'd be
Was
having
he
a
here
different conversation.
legally?
Huh?
Was he here legally?
We don't know, right? I'm going to assume for the purpose of this because they won't tell people, right? They won't tell people who they deported. A lot of the ways we know who has been deported is because of investigative work by people like the Cato Institute and the Washington Post and other such agencies, Bulwark and things like that. But the government refuses to release the list. So we kind of got to guess, unfortunately. But what we do know is for the people who were deported to CCOT, here, I got the stats right for you real quick. Okay, so convicted criminals account for just 29% of the people in there, right? So most of the people in there weren't convicted criminals. That's a problem for me. 65% of the people taken by ICE had no convictions.
But
None.
were they here illegally?
According to the government.
I don't know. I'm tired of being nice to everyone.
But it's
I'm
not.
tired of being nice to everyone.
What does that mean?
I feel like America has bent over backwards and let a lot of things slide. And I'm tired of being nice to everyone. I like the backbone. I like saying, get the fuck out. Right? I like putting a precedence in place to say, if you don't do it right, then get out. Right? I like that. I absolutely 110% like that.
Why does the government not have to do it right?
Is it right according to like our federal, if
Well,
you're
according to
an illegal
SCOTUS, it wasn't right,
citizen, right?
right? According to
Right.
the Supreme Court, they have put, they have required
Right. So
them to start
we have
giving.
our system, we have our checks and balances in place to make sure we're not being too crazy, but like I don't
But
know.
doesn't it
I'm
bother you
just
that they want to? That you have an
uh
administration in place that wants that curses the courts and wants to disobey the laws of the land that we have created in order to take people. And again, it isn't just people who come here illegally. They have put out executive orders and they are currently in court to try to end birthright citizenship. They have called on, as I gave you one example, the denaturalization of people who did it the right way because they just want to deport them all. That's a
all
problem.
right. So let's move to that because you were
Sure.
talking about what was his name again?
I don't know how to look pronouncing foreign names.
Momdi.
If I'm going to
We'll
kick
just say
Melon every
Momdi,
time. Mom, yeah,
Momdi,
the New
Momdi.
York mayor guy, right? He's not the mayor
That
yet,
guy,
but
that
yeah.
dude, that dude. Okay, so tell me about his naturalization, the revoking, the want to revoke. Give me that.
Okay, give you that. Give me a second. So here, I can put it in chat for you. You guys can read it on the screen. This is from Representative Andy Ogles, and he says this: Zoran, quote unquote, Little Mohammed Mamdani, is an
I'm done.
anti-Semitic socialist communist who will destroy the great city of New York. He needs to be deported, which is why I am calling for him to be subject to denaturalization proceedings. Attached is my letter to the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. And again, this is something that they have, again, our sitting representative of a state Congress
Well, it
calling on someone to
says
be denaturalized. That's
in the letter, it says, according to public reports, including a June 21st, 2025 New York Post article, Mr. Mamdani expressed open solidarity with individuals convicted of terrorism-related offenses prior to becoming a U.S. citizen. Specifically, he rapped "Free the Holy Land 5, My Guys." The Holy Land Foundation was convicted in 2008 for providing material support to Hamas, a designated foreign terrorist organization, publicly praising the foundation's convicted leadership as my guys in quotes, raises serious concerns about whether Mr. Mamdani held affiliations or sympathies he failed to disclose during the naturalization process. That's kind of scary.
Is it? Because he
Yeah.
made a cringe rap, we're going to strip him of his citizenship status? Look, I hate cringe rap as much as anyone, but just because someone raps poorly or says some stupid shit doesn't mean that they should have their citizenship status revoked. That's
Well, he defends it
crazy.
here. He said, "While I understand some may raise First Amendment concerns about taking legal action based on expressive conduct, such as rap lyrics, speech alone does not preclude accountability where it reasonably suggests underlying conduct relevant to eligibility for naturalization. If an individual publicly glorifies a group convicted of financing terrorism, it is entirely appropriate for federal authorities to inquire whether that individual engaged in non-public forms of support, such as organizational affiliation, fundraising, or advocacy. that would have required disclosure on Form N-400 or during a naturalization interview. So basically, he's pulling him on a technical here. And technically, you just sat and told me, Wick, that don't you want the government to play it by the rules and go by the book? Don't you want them to have to follow the rules that we have in place and do it the right way? You just said that, and now this guy's calling. This guy's calling whatever his name is, Mamdani out, saying there's a technical error here. He failed to report something. And actually, I'll say, I told you.
He doesn't say he failed to report. He says he might have failed to report. He does not know.
Okay. Well, so he's raising question. He's raising a flag. Okay. So
look,
he's making a suggestion.
I heard someone DM me that you killed and ate 3 gentlemen that were
they were delicious, by the way.
So I think that the government should go and look in and start an investigation. Should go through your personal records.
Yes.
No, that's not how that works.
If you have reason to believe. Now, I'm also not the mayor of New York. Okay.
Well, neither is he yet. He's not yet. He won the primary on a ranked
But when
choice
you're in a
voting
political position, there's a whole representation and oath and all of these things you have to take, right? So even if remember, I just got done telling you I was the director of compliance. Even if the intention is good, even if you say like, oh yeah, I didn't mean to do that, I missed one, you still are accountable for the action that is missed. It's still out the window. You still failed to report. You still failed to log. You still failed to let somebody know. You still failed to write it down. That's why they say write everything down, especially in the finance world. If you're operating in somebody's portfolio, even if you had a quick phone call with the client just to say, hey, how's your kids doing? You log the shit, right? So even in this scenario, he's asking, did he fill it out on Form N-400, or did he report this information, disclose this information during his naturalization interview?
And the evidence he gives is rap lyrics.
That's fair, but what I'm saying is there's probably a higher. I don't think it's just speculation. Somebody's not going to send a letter like that without having something backed up behind that.
Well, what he's doing here, and this is speculation on my part, but I think I'm pretty strong in my speculative abilities here. He's vice signaling. Okay, he's basically using this as a political prop, saying, "Look at how strongly I'm against those Mohammeds, those little Mohammeds. Look at how strongly I'm against those immigrants. I want them all gone, even the ones here legally." That's what he's signaling to his constituency and to the nation at large, because like it or not, and I don't like it, there is a growing group of people who just want to strip anyone who wasn't born here, and some who were, right, of their citizenship status and deport them. There is a growing group of people who actively say, yeah, I just want that. That's good. And I think that we should do that. And I vociferously oppose those people, especially ending birthright citizenship. I think birthright citizenship is and has been the law of the land for hundreds of years in America.
Yeah, I do agree. Birthright is birthright, no matter what. It is what it is. We accept it. And I think we should accept that. So I still think Andy, this
Uglaze, I don't know how to say his name. Pronunciation isn't our strong suit, ma'am.
Uglaze. Yeah, I know we suck at words tonight. To me, I think he's saying and doing exactly what you were just telling me a little bit ago. We've got rules in place, buddy. Let's follow the rules.
He doesn't care about the rules.
Well, I think he's utilizing them to his. See, rules aren't always a good thing.
Can you name someone else who was deported in the before the Trump administration, before 2025, right? Can you name someone who was deported because they rapped some lyrics and then didn't disclose in their form that they may have rapped lyrics about a terrorist group at one point?
I think he's speculating that the rap lyrics lead back to a potential affiliation prior to that, an assumption, right?
That's so weak. Do you understand? That's such a weak chain here, a weak link. I
Here's what
rapped
I'm
about
gonna
a
say.
thing, and because I rapped about a thing, I'm affiliated with that thing.
Here's what I'm gonna say. This sounds like another strategy. Do you play chess? I love chess. Do you play
I do
chess?
play chess, but I'm not very good at it.
Well, here's why, because you lack strategy. All right. What I would do in strategy orientation would be number one, this letter obviously went public, right? That
You
immediately
tweeted it out. Yes.
yeah, that immediately lets the public know, hey, we've got your eye on this guy over here. We need to look at this. Look, look, right? That's strategy number one, to bring it to the public attention so that now you can narrative build. Number two, it to me appears he has some form of information he's not putting out there. He knows something bigger than what he's saying in that letter. I would not write a letter with such vagueness, such open, like you're right, like to say, well, he said this rap lyric once. He like sang this song, like my guys, like this obviously means something. I wouldn't like, would you with a couple
If I was
brain
running for
cells,
Republican Congress, yes, I would.
you
I
would
would not be
write a
punished,
letter?
even if I was wrong. Even if they came out tomorrow and the New York Times reported that there was no connection, they did if the government came out and said there was absolutely no connection, I would suffer no blowback from my constituency.
Mhm.
There would be no downside to lying to my constituency. I would not be punished.
Well, I
I
don't
would
even think it's a lie.
well
It's
for just being wrong. I would suffer no consequences for being wrong, especially if I'm in a deep red district. I wouldn't. I would be seen as a soldier willing to fight against immigration in all its forms and
ooh, a
being
pawn.
willing to lie to do it or to misrepresent things to do it. And that is rewarded, unfortunately. It again, and this isn't just a right-wing thing, the left does it for different issues too. If you're seen as a warrior for the cause, they will excuse you don't have to be right. You just have to be a warrior for the cause.
Well, I mean, do we think
Well, do you
let's
disagree with that, first
no,
of
no,
all?
no. Do we think that all of our politicians are
Most of them.
honest?
Oh, honest? No. Sorry,
Like,
I thought you were gonna go the other way with that.
no,
No.
not at
No, we do
all.
not.
I
I do
think
not
there's a
trust
lot of
politicians further than I can throw them.
I think there's a lot of dinner chatter behind closed doors, things that but the question that, I always, or not even a question, the statement more so that I like to make is, so do we feel like this information would be in good hands with the public? Sometimes things are better left behind closed doors. If not, we'd be fear mongering. We'd be like, it'd be chaos. Like, it's better to keep the box closed and contained and, on a need to know basis only.
I can see for some information that being the case, but I generally, as a rule of thumb, I think sunlight is the best disinfectant. The more we know, the better. The more the public has access, the better. Again, there are exceptions, right? Obviously, we don't want reporters added to group chats where they're talking about the attack plans on the Houthis. That would be bad. But other than that, right? Like, I think that the public has a vested interest in knowing what the government is doing, who's running the government, and why they're doing it, and their reasoning
The
behind it.
basics. Yeah, the basics. But I
But in
think
this case
sometimes,
specifically, right,
well,
with
okay, I look at it.
Mamdani,
Think about it. We put a show together tonight, did we not?
we did put a show together.
We put a show together for tonight, but you helped me put a show together for next Monday, right?
Yes, I did, man.
Now, does the audience know all of the things going on behind the scenes?
Oh, well, no, but all I did was I have no problem telling them. You were like, "Hey, do you know anyone who has this position?" I was like, "I'll find out." And I did
Mm-hmm.
find out, and I found
Right,
it out. And that's
right.
literally all that happened.
But what I'm saying is, like, to me, I look at the politicians in that way. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that it's like, okay, like we're going to work back and forth with this, do that, send this back, do this. Nope, nope, that's not going to work. Do this, do that, do this, do this. And then finally, the final format is done and presented to the American people, and they say, this is what we've done. Even though there's so much crap and crazy all behind the scenes, late night dinners, arguing back and forth, bad phone calls, hanging up, no, fuck you, no, fuck you, no, fuck you, right? All of that behind the scenes. And then finally, here's what we present to the world, right? Do you really want the American people to see all of that stuff behind the doors?
No, I think that while more would be better, I think that there is a benefit to be able to speak in private with your colleague, especially in such a polarized world such as now. It would have benefits to be able to for AOC to talk with, I don't know, Ted Cruz and them to work on something and to get
Mhm.
something done, but they can't publicly be seen to working on it together. But these are different things, and I want to make sure that we're not kind of tying things that are not the same together. So
Mhm.
when this representative is making a public accusation, right, and a call for action that someone lose their naturalization, lose their citizenship, right? A punishment is inflicted and they are deported because of that, then yes, I think the public has the right to know. If you have evidence that he has done X, Y, or Z that you were saying warrants denaturalization proceedings, the public has the right to know what that evidence is.
Mhm. Well,
Because
I
it's,
mean,
again, a
and
public call
he is
to a public
publicly
figure from another
putting it
public
out
figure.
there, right? But I mean, it just sounds like a Karen move, honestly. Like, or Leslie. I hate my neighbor Leslie. She's such a bitch, and
Leslie. Fuck
she
Leslie.
loves fuck
Screw
you,
Leslie. She's
Leslie.
terrible. Okay.
But like making those
I don't know who
public
she is.
Facebook posts, like somebody's dogs are outside barking. Somebody needs to take care of that. Like that's to me, that's what I look at.
But
This.
the administration, like the administration is trying right now to get rid of birthright citizenship. They have revoked student visas from people. They have revoked the immigration status from swaths of people for no reason other than that that they have that ability. So when you have a politician making this claim in this environment, I think it is warrants taking more seriously than I
Is it?
would some dumb chatter, right? Making saying I'm gonna find you, Wick, and I'm gonna f you up, or I challenge you to a boxing match. I'll give you $20,000. Yeah, I don't take those people seriously. Okay, and look, all I'm saying is I told him the 28th, and I haven't heard shit from Andrew Wilson since then. So I don't think
Uh,
we're gonna be boxing on the 28th, unfortunately. But that's only because he's a coward. Let's be
all
clear.
right.
But that's another topic, right? But
All
you
right. In
understand
the
what I'm saying about
chat,
what you can take seriously and what you can't?
tomatoes in the chat. If you want to see Andrew Wilson and Wick TV boxing live, I will host it in my backyard with a little kiddie pool full of Jello, maybe mud, and you got to wear speedos with your American flag speedos. Tomatoes in the chat for that. If you'd like to see that, I will collect your $10 at the door. Okay, so uh, where did my thought bubble go?
I don't know.
Let me
It
catch
got
it.
deported. I
It
found it
my
and
thought
took it
got
out.
deported. Oh, the student visas, any type of visas, right? Work visas, student visas, the was it H1,
H-1B visas, yes.
H1B visas, like that's a privilege, not a right.
I understand that the government has the power to revoke them. All I'm asking
Mhm.
is that they don't revoke them for stupid reasons.
But they can.
Just because you can do something, does that mean you should?
If we like ended up in World War III right now, right? Um, and uh, for safety purposes, for ensuring there's no sleeper cells or whatever crazy conspiracy theories you could come up with, and we said, look, We're going to war with like half the world right now. Everybody out, right? Because we have to worry about external issues. The last thing we need to be focused on are internal issues. Everybody out, be gone, bye, come back another time. They can do that.
They did it in World War II with the Japanese internment camps, and is largely seen as a
Well,
blight
that was illegal.
Okay, but you understand, like,
They put them
whether or
in
not they
camps. They
came,
didn't boot them out, right? Like if you're here on a visa, you're here on a visa. Like you're not
and honestly,
you're
I'm
okay, let me
with
put it this
most
way. All
visas,
right, let
they
me
only have
see.
certain ways. Like,
Let me do
hold on.
this. Let me
Oh,
do
please
this.
go
Let
ahead.
me do this. All right, Wick. I come over to your house.
Okay.
Okay? I am a visitor and a guest in your home.
Okay.
And your mom just starts getting rampant and throwing a shit fit, and she's yelling and screaming, and you're like, all right, so Sarah, it's probably not a good time now. I hope you enjoyed the coffee, but I probably need you to go, and maybe come, I'll call you and come back another time. And I'm like, no, that's not fair. I wanna hang out. But well, Sarah, like my mom's obviously, I'm trying to deal with my mom, so I need you to go, right? Like I'm a guest in your house. You can tell me to get the fuck out anytime you want.
So I agree for my house, but not my neighborhood. I couldn't kick you out of the neighborhood or the city because I don't like you, nor should I be able to, even if you're very rude to my mom, or even if my mom is very rude to you, right?
Well, because the city doesn't belong to you, but your house does.
Exactly. And the
Well,
country belongs
our
to us.
government is telling our guests to get the
Does
fuck out.
Hold on. Who does the country belong to, in your opinion? The government or the people?
It belongs to us, but for our protection and safety, we have the government in place to make these decisions on our behalf, and we have employed them
It's
in order
wild
to
that you
do
trust them.
so.
It's wild that you trust them
Nobody
so much.
trusts them,
Why are you
duh.
giving them so much power then?
Well, in if we're gonna go with the idea of external people, right? Like, okay, who would you trust? Would you trust your friend who you grew up next to each other you've been friends since you were in diapers, yada yada, or some random dude who joined your friend group last week, right?
Look,
Uh,
in extremis, the government does have a lot of power. The executive branch has a lot of power. Too much for my liking, but it does. And I could just
mhm.
concede that to you, that whether I like that it has that power or not, it does. But that power is not unlimited power. There are, and I would say rightly so, limits on what the executive branch can do when it comes to deportations. There's
Yeah,
not a lot, but there's a
but
few. And this
again, a
analogy of a
visa is
house
a
doesn't work.
privilege, not a right.
But when you get a visa, when the government hands you a visa, there are certain restrictions that you have, but there are also privileges you are granted that cannot be just revoked on a whim. There has to be
Why not?
reason to do so.
Why
So
not?
why would anyone ever want to come here if they
A,
knew that they
a
had
visa is a visa is a guest pass, right? I mean,
but
and
it
that can
comes along with certain privileges that cannot be just revoked by fiat.
it's a
There are
privilege.
restrictions.
It's
It
but
depends on the
it's
visa, because there's
a
a ton of visas, right?
privilege.
There's a marriage visa,
Yes,
there's
yes.
work
I think
visas, visiting
yeah,
visas, there's
marriage
student
visas are
visas,
very different, but student visas, work visas, the H1, like all of those things are a privilege. We're bringing you over
and
here
they
for
come with
some
privileges and protections.
privileges, not rights, though.
But protections as well, right? And protections from just having it revoked the next day. It's like a contract in a lot of ways. And the government is giving its word that if you keep your end of the bargain, we will keep our end of the bargain. And it's a problem for me when the government breaks its word.
Why are they not able to just revoke visas? Where's that rule?
It depends on the visa. This is why these discussions are so hard, right? Because it depends on the visa and the status. Like a legal permanent resident has more rights than a student visa holder, who has less rights than someone who's going for a marriage visa, etc. But
Mhm.
do you just understand, and do you understand that different styles of visas comes with different protections. Do you at least cede to that?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know what
I
the
can
protections
look
are.
up one right now. We can find it. We can go through the minutia, right? But I think the broader point, if I can show you, let me ask this: if I can show you that a legal permanent resident grants with it certain protections, right? That you, for example, can't just be snatched up off the street and just deported without a hearing like a normal immigrant can on a student visa or something, right?
Do you
If you just cede to that, or if you cede to the fact that if I can show you that this is true, would you at least understand, or would you at least grant me that if this is true, then the government breaking its promises is a bad thing, and we don't want them to do that?
government breaks its promises all the time? Let me ask you this.
It's bad though. It's
Do
bad when they do that.
you Why? They're just visitors. Like we're giving them something that they, it's the American dream, right?
Do you
Come
not
here,
think
learn at our
we get
schools, do these
anything?
things, be able to send money home, so on and so forth. I think that's great. It's a privilege. It's a privilege. But do you think that a person here on a student visa, a work visa, or anything of the such carries the same rights as an American citizen?
Obviously not, but that doesn't
Mhm.
mean they have no rights.
They have privileges.
No, they have rights. So, for
You're
example, they are protected under the Eighth Amendment. That's one of we can't, for example, just because someone's here on a student visa doesn't mean we can put them on an island and hunt them for sport. They are protected against that.
can't.
We can't
Damn
do
it.
that.
I gotta
They have
cross that off my
protections,
to-do
they have
list.
rights, and that's one of the rights that they hold. They can't, for example, be forced to incriminate themselves. They have the right to plead the Fifth. That is one of the rights that they hold. The First Amendment right protects them largely, right?
Mhm.
We have, again, the right to due process, the right against unlawful search and seizure, right? These are basic foundation constitutional amendments that they also, anyone who is dwelling within our borders, whether they be here as a citizen or whether be here as a immigrant or an illegal immigrant, that they are granted these rights. It's not the same as citizens. Citizens do get more. For example, citizens can vote. Illegal
Mhm.
immigrants can't, right? Immigrants, I don't believe they can either, but I'd have to check states' laws and things like that. But federally, I don't think immigrants can vote unless they're citizens. Um,
Mhm.
and that's fine. But the ones that we have granted them and given all the people within our borders should be upheld.
But all of that goes out the window if and only if the risk of the American people is greater than that person's rights.
That's a
Rights.
terrible precedent because that
Why?
applies to citizens too, right? You would
Why?
grant that to citizens, right? If the
No, I'm
government,
talking about people who are here on visas, work
yeah, but why
visas,
wouldn't it?
student visas, all of those
If the
things.
threat
Like
is
the
big enough,
America comes first, always.
okay, but if
Why are we? And I'm not saying they're second class citizens, but what I'm saying is like you're a guest here, right? Like if if I f- if you came into my house, Wick,
sure,
and I started to feel uncomfortable with you being in my house, and I'm like, I don't like this. I'm not feeling very safe. Wouldn't it be my priority to make my safety the first and foremost priority? And the discomfort, it's going to be uncomfortable saying, "Hey, I'd like you to leave now," right? I'd like you to leave my house because I don't feel comfortable with you being here. I don't feel safe. Goodbye, right? It's uncomfortable to say that to anyone, or even to a group of people. But it's like our safety first.
but here's the problem with this. This is the same logic that people have used to censor people and get them kicked off of public spaces like Twitter, public spaces like YouTube, because they don't feel comfortable. First of all, a house and a nation are very different things, and they are not the same. They are not analogous. And again, the same logic that you've been using, that the safety of the nation comes first, is what was used in the Patriot Act to strip a lot of Americans' rights away. A terrible precedent that set. It's something I oppose, and I hope most people oppose. Like being able to like wiretap your phones
But
and just go
that's
in. That's
tapping
something they've done to
into
citizens for the same law. If I can finish.
that's tapping into the citizens, not to
But the
uh,
logic that they're doing is the
visitors.
same that you just used, that there's a big enough threat. America is bigger and better than just one of its parts, and we have to protect the whole. And so if the individual suffers for that, oh well, that's too bad, but they're going to have to take one for the team, right? That's the same logic. It's the same logic that's being used. And that's what I fear is going to happen. They're going to set precedents by what they're able to do to even legal permanent residents, right? Immigrants who are here legally. And that precedent will be the thin end of the wedge that gets us in to them taking and stripping the rights from American citizens. And they've demonstrated that they're able and willing to do that with the Patriot Act. It wasn't too long ago. Less than 30 years ago, we had this happen. It's going to happen again if we let it, and we should not do that. And the way we stop the government from stripping rights away from anyone is by protecting those who are most vulnerable. And in this case, it is immigrants. I'm not saying don't deport anyone. I'm saying do it right. And ICE is not doing it right. And the Trump administration is not doing it right. And they are doing it in a way that threatens me, you, and every other citizen out there.
Okay. I'll let you stand on that hill.
Beautiful.
It's going to be
Ready.
It's going to be a fun one. Here's what I'm going to do to the viewers out there in Mater Nation. This is our fucking house, bitches. Protect this fucking house. That's what we're going to do. Stand up, rise up, own it. Wipe your feet off at the door when you come in as well. We will go into open panel, a dumpster fire. Did you have fun with that? I thought that was fun.
Did you? I enjoyed it. Well, I always enjoy talking. That's
I
why I
love
stream. I just like to be happy.
well, that too, but I love being able to give pushback anywhere I can, and most of the time I can't. Most of the time I'm just like, I don't even understand what you're saying. Not you, but like other people. I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about?
I
This
try to make
time
my
I
words
was,
understandable, but yeah.
I mean, and I don't even know the crux and the details of what you're talking about, but on the surface level, I felt like I could push back on that. All right, yeah, Maters unite. Mound up. All right, start hopping backstage. Oh my gosh, it's already bleeping off. All right, let's get through some super chats. We'll read off those, Wick, and then we'll have some fun. I see him back there.
I'm ready.
All right, Evan Lord with the big 5 says, "Congratulations, Wick, for no longer being Destiny's eunuch." Eunuch?
I don't know. Okay. I'm not sure what they're
What the
talking about.
fuck's a eunuch?
A eunuch is someone who's had their balls snipped off. A
That's
guy, a eunuch.
oh,
They made them so they couldn't get the concubines pregnant. When you had the king who had all his concubines and it was guards, they were guarded by eunuchs so they couldn't impregnate the harem. And so everyone knew if they got pregnant, it was from the king.
shots fired.
Yeah.
Damn. All right. Evan Lord follows up again. My cousin married a Canadian illegal immigrant. He didn't go to his mother's funeral because he didn't bother becoming a citizen. He should be deported. My cousin married a Canadian illegal immigrant.
Was his cousin the woman and the Canadian illegal immigrant the man?
I mean, is this like I've got a girlfriend in Canada, I swear she's beautiful kind of story? Is that what this is? That's what it sounds like to me. Like the Evan Lord follows up again. Evan Lord's been busy and he's backstage, so maybe he can help us with a couple of those. With the big 5, there was a Giga Chad that dressed up as Joe Biden in Texas and forced illegal immigrants to work for free because he tricked them. All right, that's cute. Chuck in Tennessee sends a big 5. Sorry, pal, they didn't worry about laws when they entered, and that is like the forever argument for that one. You know what I mean? Like,
do criminals get rights?
Sometimes
Yeah.
I wish they didn't. Sometimes I wish that, I mean, I'm glad we have them in place to ensure that, we have the proper procedures to confirm this person truly is doing
criminal.
wrong.
Yeah.
Right. But, you know, like you cling to our laws after you break them, and it's just I mean, it's organized chaos at its finest, and it's a very backwards motion kind of circle. But yeah, like I think the argument is like, well, we have the right to this, we have the right to that. And it's like, yeah, but I have the right to not have you be here and not be subjected to this bullshit with all of your uh, crazy shit that you bring when you come over here illegally. That's why I asked you, like, do American citizens, have more rights
Thank
than
you.
somebody who's not here? And that to me is the core focal point, is like we're like bottle feeding people that are not on this level, right? Like
Yeah,
we're doing what we're supposed to do.
but we have more rights, but that doesn't mean they have no rights. And that's the big argument, right, that we're having. Just because I, as a citizen, have more rights than a Canadian immigrant doesn't mean that the Canadian immigrant has no rights in America. And I'm glad. I think it's good that we, as America, as the land of the free, will protect the rights of even people who are visiting here. Because I don't want to be a country where we tell visitors, you better watch what you say. Because if you say anything critical of our administration, we're going to put you in a box for 2 months and then
Well,
deport you.
okay, let me bring it back to the house. If I came into your house and I'm like, Wick, I don't fucking like any of the way you set your house up. Your pots and pans are on the wrong side. I don't like the way you cook dinner, and I definitely don't like the TV shows that you like to watch during the day. This is fucking stupid. Why are you even existing? Right? And at that point, would you be like, "Oh yeah, take your shoes off, sit on down, come, can I make you some coffee?" You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be very inviting. I
No, but
think
I
if
couldn't
you
chain you to
are
my
a
radiator and
visitor,
kill you.
I think
You would have protections against that.
no, no I
Yes.
mean,
Yes, you
I,
would. I
or
promise you.
or or if I don't like your house, how about I just fucking leave?
But again, a house is not a nation. These are disanalogous. They're
But
not
it
the same.
is.
I can't kick
It
you out of the neighborhood.
is.
I can't kick you out of the city, and nor should I be just because you're annoying.
But this is our house. This is our house. Yeah, K2 keep on trucking with the big five says, Sarah, be meanie. Yes, I will be a fucking meanie. Get the
I want
fuck
it.
out
I
of
want
my
to fight.
house.
Let's go.
A gestural with the big 10 says, let your inner bitch rage. Salute. Nice is over. Yes, everybody's going to burn. I don't know. But I just think, like, this is my house. Get the fuck out. I'm tired. I'm just tired of being nice. Another new account with the big five says, I'm also tired of being nice. I wish we had the same border enforcement as Switzerland, Israel, Japan, Poland, etc. Why can't we?
We're not
I
the
think that
same country.
aren't
We
they
have
pretty
signed different
like
laws
aren't
into
they
place.
pretty strict on entry and stuff like that?
I can't speak to Switzerland and to Poland, but I can speak a little bit to Israel and Japan. And yes, they have very strict immigration policies. But that's the thing. We have a set of laws, a system in place that is remarkably different than these other countries. One of my most frustrating things talking to lefties is when they think that they can just import a system from the healthcare system of Switzerland into America and it will be hunky dory, no problems, it'll be fine. That's not how that works. We have a different culture here. We have different problems. We have a different makeup. We have a different system of government. You can't just plug and play these policies into place. It doesn't work. And I wish we would stop trying.
Fair enough. Another new account also asked, Wick, does the same mask stance apply to rioters? You said you
Well,
don't want them on the people who are enforcing the laws. What about the people who are breaking them?
I don't think anyone should be wearing masks, whether it be rioters or police. If you're not going to let the people wear masks, then you sure as shit shouldn't.
JB Peltier says, "Retro." Yes, you open the can. Evan Lord says, "How did New York elect a radical Islamist before Detroit? The Muslim core population is larger in Detroit than New York." Sarah, favorite type of cheese? The pepper jack, like the one with the hot stuff in it. All
How did
right.
New York? Well, I think a lot of people are reading too much into the mayor race of New York City. It's a local election. It has local issues, and people trying to make a big national deal out of this, they're missing the mark. And as someone who has never lived in New York City, I can't really speak to that. So I don't know.
That's fair. Southern Man 777 with the big 5 says, "Sarah's right. Wick is a libtard."
Well, he didn't spell my name right though, so I don't know who he's talking about.
He's talking about the candle in the wind.
True. Elton John, maybe.
Robert Schweitzer with a big 5. Wick, why do you even have a U.S. flag up? You don't believe in national identity, culture, or say the word for me because I can never say it.
Sovereignty.
Thank you. America first or not at all.
So I would say I'm more American than whoever Robert Switzer is. First of all, the national identity, culture, and sovereignty that I believe in something that my forefathers fought for and I fought for when I served in the U.S. military, does not, right, violate the rights of the visitors who come here. It provides protections for them, and the bad ones, get them out of here. Fine. But the ones who are trying to do it right, especially the ones who've gone through the process and been accepted, and we have said, hey, you're here as a legal permanent resident, right? You're here on a student visa. I think that they should be not subject to routine harassment by these basically masked secret police that can come in, not show a warrant, not show their faces, not identify themselves, and just take them, black bag them, and deport them away. I reject the notion. I think that the national identity, culture, and sovereignty of Robert Switzer, does he even live in America? He sounds like he lives in Germany. That's all I'm saying.
Well, this is my fucking house. I'm an American. Fuck yeah.
And why are we allowing these Russian bots, these German bots, all these bots come in and influence our decisions like that? I don't know.
I don't know. Robert Schweitzer, you have some explaining to do. Are you Canadian, Schweitzer? K2, keep on trucking with the big 5. Horse video from my favorite person in chat, Kissy Cat, when the panel opens, if she's here. And I will 110% get that playing here shortly. I'll just wait for the right moment. So Kissy Cat and K2, stick around in the chat and wait for your sexy horse video. John Mosman with the big 5. Hello from Omaha, Nebraska. And yes, most Leslies are bitches. Confirmed. Fuck you, Leslie. Fuck you very much.
Should we
Fuck
deport
you,
her?
Leslie. Fuck you, Leslie. I should.
Should we deport
I
her?
should.
Do we even know if she's a citizen?
She's definitely a citizen,
How can you tell?
unfortunately. Well, I know she is a government employee. I know she's been here in these houses since they were built, which was 20 years ago. So, yeah, I think she's definitely,
I don't know.
yeah, and
There's
she's
always
too much of a Karen to not be, right?
fair enough.
Like the Karen mode only applies to oversized, short haircut American women who just, ugh, fuck you, Leslie. Anyways, Chuck, and apologies if there are Leslies out there that might actually be chill, but you might want to go by your middle name because I'm changing the Karen name to Leslie. You watch it. It's going to happen. I'm starting a trend. It's going to be stop being a Leslie, okay? Chuck in Tennessee with the big 5 says, I vote to deport your guest. Aw, you've
You
been
can't.
deported, Wick.
I'm too white.
See, thankfully, my rules apply where you get to stay. K2, keep on track with the last one, and then we'll get our panel on here in just a second. It's not Detroit, it's Dearborn Heights. Where's Dearborn Heights at?
Dearborn Heights,
Is that,
Michigan,
oh, is that
I believe.
Michigan?
I believe. I think. Oh, look, geography is not my strong suit, but I
I
believe
believe I can
it's
fly.
has a
Geography
very
was
heavily
always my
Muslim
worst.
population.
Ah, fair enough. Well, are you ready to meet your panel and have some fun?
Let's go. Let's bring it.
All right, let's bring it on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know my drill. You're all panelists who have been here before, so you know if I tell you to shut up, you shut the fuck up. Outside of that, I hope you all have fun. Enjoy your conversation. Feel free to restream as you please. Sasquatch, you were the first one here. What say you, sir? And while you do that, I'm taking a quick tinkle break. Be good.
Wick TV, my brother.
What's up?
Does America have a culture?
Different parts of different cultures, but sure, yeah.
Oh, so America itself doesn't actually have a culture. It's
does.
just a bunch of immigrants that
I mean-
showed up randomly.
No, the culture has evolved over the years, but I would say the culture that we have is also shifting, I think, right now. But when I was growing up in America, right, the culture was one that was pro free speech. We tolerated each other's differences, and apple pie, hot dogs, 4th of July.
There you go. Now you getting it. Okay, so America has a culture, and we just want to defend our culture. Is that so much of an issue?
I think that you're attacking our culture right now. My culture, American culture, is under attack by people like you.
Like me?
Yep.
I'm just asking a question, brother.
No, well,
So,
I think the question
You feel
is
attacked. That's because it's how
driving to
you
a
feel
point, no?
inside.
Hold on, the question is driving to a point, correct?
I want to know how you feel about American culture. You did a pretty good job at describing what American culture might be perceived as.
I like our culture. Our culture is better than other cultures. Our culture
Really?
Okay, can you describe other cultures?
Or would you rather
also-
export American culture?
Hold on, one at a time, because I can't hear both of you at the same time. Sorry.
Would you rather import other cultures to America or export American culture elsewhere?
I think that importing other cultures, I believe that, well, for example, I'll give you an example. Okay. So there are portions of other cultures that I think are better than American culture. For example, Chinese culture, they take care of their elderly in a way that we do not. And I think that's better. And if I could graft that onto American culture, I absolutely would. However, I think we do free speech and almost everything else better than the Chinese. So I'm very big on taking what works from other cultures and putting into ours. And that's part of our culture.
That's part of American culture. Yes, sir.
American culture is grafting on other cultures into us and becoming more than the sum of its parts. And I think that by importing our culture, which we do, and do you know how we import all culture, sir? One of the major ways?
Immigration. Absolutely.
Yes, student visas specifically. We allow them to come to our colleges, to stay in our cities, to learn and to grow in our American melting pot culture, and then we send them back home where they can spread that to their family.
Do we actually send
hold
them
on, hold on. I really want to kick into this just real quickly because I'm really being bothered by this conversation. I'm going to ask it outright. Out of all this panelists out here, thank you for having me, Sarah. I appreciate it. Thank you. Out of all the panelists here, who have migrated in their life, who have exited their country and have gone to live to another country?
Technically, I have
in the military, and I've been in the military, so me.
I haven't killed anyone recently either, but I'm not trying to go out and try that.
Technically, I was a dual citizen.
Okay, so out of all the panelists, only 4 of us have lived and experienced migration outside of our borders.
Yes and no.
Which point?
Yes and no. And out of those 4, I am the only one who throughout his whole life, by the age of 16, I had lived in 6 different countries: United States, Mexico, Argentina, Ecuador, Venezuela, Costa Rica.
Are you claiming some sort of expert status here?
Hold on, Sasquatch. I know you love to bombardier conversations with that bullshit you throw.
I've seen you dribble
I'm going to make
straight myself. So we're going to have a conversation, and it's not going to be a soliloquy by you.
No,
but
it's not going to be a clown show by you. So let's put this on this perspective.
God, I need a clown nose.
The majority of here don't even know what the hell you're talking about. The experiences, the knowledge in that sense.
You are claiming expertise, aren't you?
What angers me the most and what frustrates me the most in this conversation is, let's put it this way. The United States situation with irregular migration itself, it is in its majority its own fabrication because of its own foreign policies and the impacts of those foreign policies. Not excluding, and I want to make sure this is clear, not excluding the internal problems of each country. I can refer to, and I can give a masterclass in regards of the Latin American and the migration. For example, Venezuela. Out of the 8 million people who have migrated, only about 5% have chosen the United States. The majority have chosen countries of grounds.
So can I ask you something, though? Do you believe, okay, so a lot of times we look at something like MAGA and say, well, I understand this because I understand Donald Trump, so I understand why Donald Trump talks about immigration. But do you, in any world, when we think about this sweeping platform and reform from the White House, do you believe it's possible that immigration can just be a policy and not a total paradigm?
I wish it could be just a policy. But the problem is that for the past 80 years, even more, if we talk about the last 200, 250 years, it has been a paradigm. So if you want to just shift it to a policy, lovely, but fix the problems that you have in regards of why irregular migration happens, why undocumented migration happens, why the so-called badly illegal migration happens. Look, the difference between illegality and legality is an economic one.
Still going, bro.
To me, the reason I can't agree, and I'm not going to bogart, I just wanted to fit this in, is that as an American, you know, the thing of seeing ICE drag people out by their heels, by their socks, by their shoes, this is incredibly inappropriate. It also doesn't speak to any truth that Americans are familiar with, right? If I don't understand the cost, if I don't understand the impact on human well-being, I'm not going to understand a gosh darn thing. And so when you say that we have this 250-year paradigm, I say absolutely, totally, yeah. That's it. That's my time. See you guys.
Look,
my God, 10 minutes. Hold on, you got 10 minutes in the back, Doc, which is actually less time than Ryan, because Chuck sent 20 to send Ryan to the back, but then Gourdzilla backed it up with another 5. So Ryan had 25 minutes in the back, which is now sitting at 21. And Doc, I'm starting your 10-minute timer now. And Doc, did you notice I gave you your own emoji in the membership tab? No ducks.
Hey, let me put it this way before you kick me. Duck has an emoji in the back for being a libtard. Okay. And so glaze it up, guys. Glaze it up. If you don't like Duck, provide that visual cue that people aren't a fan of my political beliefs and the way I debate. Debate. That stuff's all fine. That's awesome.
All right,
I appreciate
go play
it,
with
guys.
your duckies. Go play with your duckies.
I like roast duck.
Well, it took under 10 minutes.
I know it didn't take long. I wanted to ask, Ditso, you're speaking from the experience as an immigrant, but do you have experience as a naturalized American citizen?
Of course, I am a naturalized Central American citizen. So
Central
in that sense,
American.
again, the question
like
here,
the United States of America citizen.
It's an interesting thing that Disto said, right? He said there are a lot of citizens from LATAM that want to come to America. So the question is, and he's like, why do they want to do that? They want to do that because they look for, and correct me if I'm wrong, and tell me how I'm wrong here. They feel like there's a better life here, right?
Okay, so let's put it into perspective. Latin America in 33 nations has 660 million people currently living in them. That is from Mexico down to Argentina plus the Caribbean. That doubles the population of the United States. The amount of people who are migrating are originating from 3 or 4 major areas, which are Mexico, the Triangle of the North, which is Honduras, Guatemala, Salvador. Then you have the situation of Venezuelans, which out of the 8 million, only about 5% have chosen the United States as their destination. So it is untrue that we have to analyze why migration happens. What are the economic, social, political factors that force that?
Well, hold on one second here, though, right? So they're choosing other countries, but they're also choosing our country. And how many of them are actually coming here legally?
Right now, the majority of migration that happens to the United States is
actually legal.
Legal. So anywhere between 85 to 90% of migration that happens annually to the United States is legal.
Yeah, we're not concerned with that.
The real point of it is that nobody's actually arguing here, I don't think, that legal migrants are a problem, right? Like we accept people from China, we accept people from Latin America.
We confirm that, please? Because hold on, can we confirm that? Because while you might not, I've argued with plenty of people who say actually legal migration is a problem too. So is there anyone? I just want to confirm. Maybe you're correct, but is there anyone who thinks that legal migration? I'm talking about visas, H-1B visas, student visas,
all of that's
not a problem.
Okay, so I'll actually
not a problem for you. Okay.
I'll back you
right.
up
I just wanted to confirm
here,
so we can go forward.
Well, before we move on, like, do we at least acknowledge that like there is a really big contingency in the Republicans that believe that legal immigration is also a problem? Like Charlie Kirk just came out saying that we need to drastically curb our legal immigration, and we're revoking student visas, and there's that one representative that's trying to pull the citizenship of the one guy who just got elected. Like there is a big contingency of Republicans that don't like legal immigration either.
So let's just put it.
But just give me a second, guys. Here, so I've been through this whole process, right? And there is a huge problem. And the last time I went through it, it was the Democrats in charge, and the problem still exists with the Republicans in charge. So I'm actually not bashing right or left on this, but when we went through our immigration process here, we had this problem where they said your visa's illegal, but you have to go to another country, but you're not allowed to leave the country right now, otherwise you'll lose your status, so you have to stay. So we're going to give you a temporary thing, but you're still going to be here illegally, right? Now I think this kind of goes to the ICE thing. Right now you're in this limbo where the government said you came legally, you applied to stay legally, but now you're in this limbo where you're actually not legal, but you're still allowed to stay legal. So, and this happened both with the Democrats and the Republicans. So there's a huge immigration problem.
So
when it's illegal citizens, but I don't think in this conversation we're actually talking about the people going through those processes. We're talking about the people that Sarah was talking about before that actually broke into her house.
But are we condemning the idea that the fact that like a lot of the Trump administration's focuses have been on people with permanent
It sounds
no, it is
like
relevant to the
to
we're talking about revoking
me,
student visas.
I'm going
This message is sponsored in part by
Kissy Cat. I hope you were watching that. Shout out from K2. Keep on trucking. Big kiss to you. It sounds like to me we're trying to make it a little tougher and becoming more, I guess, stringent maybe on how you enter and the rules surrounding. It sounds like we're trying to crack down and not let it be so easy, right? And so typically you have to clean things up first before you can lay your new foundation, and maybe that's what's happening.
I agree.
Real quickly.
Well, real quick, because if we're trying to say that they're trying to clean up the system, that's implying that there's a problem with the system. So if we're saying, we're trying to make it more stringent for immigrants to come into this country legally, that implies that there's a problem with the amount of immigrants coming in legally. That's the implication.
Let me kick in this real quick.
Oh, well, let me fire back. Yeah, if something's too laxed, right? If it's too laxed and we're like, hey, we don't like, people are just coming and going as they please. People are overstaying their visas, as Wick was saying earlier. People are doing this, doing that, all these things. And that means the system needs tighter ruling. And now you're arguing against that, saying, no, we want people to be able to come in and do this and do that. But we're saying, hey, no, we need to tighten up the reins a little bit and not just let any willy-nilly in the door.
Well, I just want to make sure that we all agree that...
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I may, just real quick, because there's a couple things that we need to really kind of focus on here so it's not forgotten. When they tighten the reins, so to speak, what they do is they reciprocally, or not reciprocally, I'm sorry. What's the word where you do it in the past?
Retroactively.
Retcon it. They retcon it. They retcon your status. So people who thought they came in here legally, who did the process legally, who were given legal status, suddenly and did it what they thought was the right way, are said, well, actually, no, we're going to consider you illegal now. We can consider that a crime now.
Well, in addition, I want to make sure that, like, if you want to say that we need to make it a lot harder for legal immigrants to come in here, then don't pretend like, I'm not saying that you're pretending, Sarah, but a lot of people like to have the conversation focused on illegal immigrants, but they also want to attack legal immigrants. But whenever they're, pushed on that, like, hey, you also want less legal immigrants, they always walk back to the legal immigrants.
Hold on.
People are more honest about them actually just wanting to curb immigration and not just...
and also,
hold on. Wait. Give me a moment.
Brain drain is good when we drain other countries and we bring their best and brightest here. Yes, America is stronger because of that.
You're missing the point completely. So let's just put it frankly. The difference between the legal immigration and illegal migration is an economic one. The saying that, we just want legal migration refers and it indicates that the wish is you want people who are economically viable towards your society and that have, that have a certain status to it. That has been the behavior for the past 100 and some years. Hold on.
These are separate issues, please. Border control is not the same as ICE enforcement. These are separate issues. Do not conflate them.
Wick, the problem is that today, the policies of Donald Trump don't give a damn about who is legally or illegally. They are directing the attacks of this ICE towards people they deem as different or with a certain, it has a racist undertone to it or an ethnical cleansing undertone to it also. But here the discussion is, okay, look, legal migration, great. We can talk that till the cows come home. There are aspects, but if we talk about the irregular, undocumented, illegal migration that is happening, those are happening because of facts that are making people displaced in their areas and having to then forcefully move up to the north because of seeking that economic necessity. Why? What are those factors that are making people run away from the country?
Money.
Okay,
it's always money. And speaking of money, Evan Lord comes with a big 5, says, Ditso is going to take a quick break to learn how to speak concisely. I don't hold it against you. I know this English is not your first language, but you got 5 minutes in the back, Ditso. So hang tight backstage for me.
So the distinction between illegal and legal immigration, I think, is a non sequitur. You're trying to conflate the concept of having an enforcement policy that is actually being enforced from just allowing an open border. I actually open for easier entrance into the U.S. I don't want Pedro with his ice cream truck to have to leave. I like Pedro. I like his ice cream truck. I think he's a good kid. He's going to make a great American one day, but he needs a pathway to do it. And I'm not adverse to Pedro, who's been here for 15 years since he was 12 and has lived as an American most of his life, to become an American. I think that should
who
be
ICE is targeting. You understand that, right? That is ICE through their policies. That is who ICE is going after, because going after the criminals is hard, and going after Pedro with his ice cream truck is very easy.
Sure.
And it's also Squatch. You're not being clear. It's also people just starting that aspect of the American journey, which is why we have due process for immigration in the first place. Can you clarify your points if you're going to say something to a room full of hundreds of people? Sasquatch.
You know I got
they gave up their rights.
Nice.
You guys are talking over each other.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to be that guy. We're not. I don't think we're here to be talking about like our personal opinions on how global migration should look. This is about Trump's administration's actions. Like, if you want to say, "Oh, well, I don't personally agree with that," that's fine. Your morality isn't the thing that's at trial here right now. We're talking about Trump's actions.
Hold on. This is the problem. Yeah. It's become a border control conversation, but that's not the conversation we should have, because it's not the same as talking about immigration enforcement when they're in our borders, when they're here, when we have an organization that, again, is going masked, without warrants, without badges, without uniforms, and they're finding people, they're black bagging them, they're putting them in a truck, they're not giving their due process.
What the hell is black bagging?
Putting a bag over their head,
just a bag over your head, back into the van and drive off.
Oh, that's my girlfriend.
Oh my God.
So, Wick, I mean, what would your prescription be for this right now?
How many do you have, Chuck?
I got a whole closet full.
What would your prescription be right now?
So, first of all, start going and targeting criminals. That's good. And
they're all criminals.
Okay, there is a difference between someone who overstayed their visa and someone who is a leader of a gang that is human trafficking women.
There's no difference. If they walked across the border illegal, they're a criminal.
Do you think a cop should take more time to punish a jaywalker or punish a murderer?
A jaywalker. Well, let me ask you this, though.
You're not serious. These aren't serious answers.
Let me ask you, Wick. If somebody is willing to be sneaky, right, overstay their visa and try to get away with it, then are they capable of doing more sneaky things to get away with it?
Citizens who are capable of doing all sorts of things. Humanity is capable of bad things, but we don't punish these things until they actually do them. So we can't.
But they're already overstaying their visa.
That does not make them murderers. That does not.
It doesn't make them a murderer, but it makes them doing something criminal.
But Sarah, it makes them doing something. Sarah,
hold on, please. Stop.
Let him answer.
Let me answer the lady's question, please. Because we don't treat all criminals the same, because we recognize that there are different degrees of criminals. Some are more dangerous than others. Some we need to go after more harshly than others. Some we need to punish more harshly than others, right? Some we put more focus on, with some we put less focus on. And I think that, again, to conflate someone overstaying their visa with someone who is a hardened gang member is going to lead to bad outcomes, and it's going to be bad not just for America, but for its citizens as well. We don't want to conflate these things. It's bad to conflate.
Okay, so let me ask you a question based on that, right?
Evan, shut the fuck up.
No, go ahead, Evan. Evan has sat here quietly for the last 40 minutes. He's okay. Go ahead, Evan.
I will say there's like a positive incentive as well, where if they self-deport, then they get a chance to become a citizen, or they have a chance to go and immigrate legally. That's what's the positive thing is. And if they choose not to
do that,
then they can go and get they can get the carrot or they can get the stick. And them getting treated like criminals is the stick. And it's going and making it effective, because the problem of illegals going and working service jobs, they're not showing up, so the wages are increasing. There's a IHOP where I'm nearby, and they closed their doors because like the people that they were employing was only illegals, and it caused like a serious detriment of the quality of the place.
So let me put this.
Let me interrupt just for a moment. Christina, with her 7-month membership, hot diggity. This is starting to get like crazy to think about that. Like there can be people who have very long-term memberships. I'm very proud of that. Thank you, Christina, for sticking around. And I'm glad you like me. She says, breaking the law equals criminal. Duh. And Caldy with the big 5 says, calm down, Duck. Take a breather. Duck, you got 5 in the back,
Yeah,
buddy.
fuck you.
All right.
Why did they?
Don't yell at me.
That's why they do that to Duck, is because he comes in triggered out the gate. I mean, half the comments he makes in chat, we have to either uncover because YouTube hides them, or we don't. I don't anymore. I don't.
So let me put this into perspective. One, in the last 80 years, one of the major imports of migrants that the United States has had was Operation Paperclip, where you brought Nazi scientists to work on your.
That was back in the 40s.
Hold on.
Let's try not to say that N word. Let's try not to use that N word if you don't mind.
You know,
the people back in the early 40s.
German scientists.
Anyhow, I'm going to make a point here. Your country has benefited from the importing of the minds of not only Europe, but throughout the whole world. That's a matter of fact. Now, the question is, what has aggravated the conditions in the last 30 years for irregular, illegal, undocumented migration to happen?
There is no such thing as a regular.
I was born
illegal.
and they all thought Wick is in America now. We gotta go, especially the ladies, those thick Latinas. Okay.
Well, Ditzo, you've been deported to the back. You got 5 more minutes in the back, Ditzo. Hang
I love Ditzo. I really do.
I got a question for you, Sarah. I was doing a little research on birthright citizenship, and it stated that if they had allegiance to another country, that they were not to be eligible for citizenship. Their parents.
Where does it say that?
How can you, as a child, have allegiance to another
No,
country?
no. I'm talking about the parents. The parents.
So what he's talking about
that
in the 14th Amendment is talking about people who are diplomats or ambassadors from other countries. And yes, our
that would
14th
make
Amendment
sense.
birthright citizenship does not apply to them because their families, the diplomats and their families, have what's called diplomatic immunity. You may have heard of it, right? Where they are not subject to the jurisdiction of America in the same way anyone else would be. It's a very special condition, and they carved that out specifically because I realized it could maybe cause some problems, right? So yes, if you're a diplomat and you have a child here, that child does not automatically become a citizen. Is not
that makes sense because they're only here as like an ambassador of their country, so they're not here because they want to be here to work here, live here. Their allegiance is not to us. They're just here to help be an ambassador. That actually makes sense.
That's not an immigrant either. That's an ambassador.
No, that's not. Yeah, it's not an immigrant. They're not here to be an American citizen. They're here to represent their country on American territory and help aid the communication between the two.
Technically speaking, anywhere they step is their native soil.
Yep, in the embassy or whatever that they bought.
Can I ask a question real quick? Okay, so it seems like we have this idea that if you do any crime, you should be met with some sort of criminal punishment. Like, do we believe that we should be deporting like criminals who are citizens?
No.
Why not?
You go to jail.
Our criminals are our problems. We're not.
Donald Trump disagrees with you, right? Because he suggested the idea of deporting homegrowns, quote unquote.
I don't know.
I think this is the problem of the whole debate right now is that we have to look at it in different sections, right? So we're talking about people that are legally or in transit of a visa.
Is he cutting out everyone else?
Broke over the border.
Hold on. Is that Vibe talking?
Yes.
No,
he's
Vibe.
They got
Vibe. You froze up.
His job. The immigrants took his job.
He got deported, and that's what happened.
They took his job.
He got deported.
Okay. Am I back here? Can you guys hear me?
Oh, there you are. And let's give it a minute to sink in. Alexander with the Big Ten says overstaying your visa is a civil violation, not a criminal one. People who overstayed are not criminal illegal aliens. Which are you all talking about? I don't think we're talking about necessarily. I don't think we're talking about all people who that was a claim that Wick made earlier, is that they were overstaying their visas, and that's why they're here illegally. But I would say people who are overstaying their visa and then tapping into new social security cards in order to keep working, using different names, aliases, so on and so forth, that is illegal. That's fraud.
Okay, so I'm about to go to the back, but I wanted to piggyback on this because this is a super important point. And I think we were absolutely conflating this earlier. Like when you guys, we were talking about people overstaying their visas and accusing them of being criminal, and they are not. That's not a criminal offense. It is specifically a civil offense, which obviously they can be deported for that, but it's not like they wouldn't be prosecuted for being. And I think conflating the two,
which is a problem of sending them to CCOT, right? Where they send a lot of them
exactly.
to CCOT. That again. We would, as I said during the one-on-one discussion we had, Sarah, if we were talking about just put them on a plane, give them a ticket, and send them to their home country, we'd have a different conversation. But that's not what we're talking about. We're in many cases, what they're doing is sending them to a foreign prison where we have trouble getting them back from if we do it wrong, as we saw with our Abrego Garcia, where the government said, well, it's hard for us we can't just get them back. And that's a problem for me, that we send people to a foreign prison for not being criminals in a civil violation without due process. That's a problem.
Yeah. In addition to that, since I'm about to go to the back, addition to that, like now, after there was a recent Supreme Court ruling where they're now sending people to countries that they're not even from, right? And some of these countries are like active war zones and like really dangerous places. And this is, I mean, I imagine being sent to somewhere where you might get killed like super easily. And
I
you had no due
thought about that.
And you weren't a criminal. You were just like you're being like, and people are sitting on a panel. A bunch of Americans are sitting on a panel calling you a criminal, and then you get deported and you get killed. Like, just imagine being in that scenario. It'd be horrifying, right? Okay.
Look,
I thought about that.
It can just returned. This is simple. The issues of what you call illegality migration has to do with the impacts of foreign policy of the United States and also internal problems in each other countries.
Can we please
for
stop
the past 30 years? For the past 30 years, I out of those 30 years, I've been working 25 years in my respective country to try to fix those issues. Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, now Trump again. Last 5 presidents. Last year, we had 6 major meetings in Guatemala, Mexico, etc.
What's your point, sir?
Yeah, please skip.
Give me a moment. I'm getting to the fucking point.
You've been getting to it the whole time, dude.
While you take your time getting to the point, allow me to let all of the maters know we are going to be shifting over to the gauntlet here in just a few minutes. I will continue to drop the video link into the chat for you to just go ahead and move over now, or you have to wait and catch the raid. There's 180, 90 of you watching. So I expect to see here shortly all of you maneuver over to the gauntlet. I will shut the tomato down. Same show, different channel. Everybody on screen is staying in place.
Do I have to rejoin StreamYard, Sarah, or am I good here?
I just said everybody here on the panel is staying in place. You don't have to move, but the chat does. So if you're in the chat and you're enjoying it and having fun, start moving over. Everybody's already over at the gauntlet. They're moving over there. I will continue dropping the link. And here in a few minutes, I will shut Tomato down completely, and you'll have to catch the raid wave on over. Okay, did so. I think we're all ready to listen to you now.
In simple terms, Wick is too superficial in his analysis. There's things I agree with Wick, and I applaud that he's able to say. But the problem and the depth of the problem is something that has been ongoing for a long time. That's a fact. Now, there are clear undernotes of xenophobia, of racism, and other BS of the United States side that impedes them to really get shit done and fixed. Because if we could get, for example,
Is your point that America is racist? Because you got that across.
No. That's just one of the factors, but it's not the whole factor. I'm speaking in a more broader sense before we get into the whole depth of this whole issue. Because at the end, irregular, illegal, or undocumented migration is happening because of facts, of things that are being done. So why hasn't your country opened the table, and in the last 5 presidents, let's sit down with our governments and said, let's fix this. Because
you're asking questions to things that like we have no control over. Like that is ambassador, presidential kind of.
It's beyond the scope of the conversation. We're not talking about immigration in general. We're talking about immigration enforcement, ICE specifically. Look, there is a conversation to be had about border policies and border issues, but we aren't talking about that today. Today we are talking about once they're here, regardless of why, what do we do?
Okay, so let's put it simple. This isn't the first time ICE has acted like a terrorist group.
How did he maintain control?
Acting terrorist.
Here's this one's to all of you big booty. This one is to all of you big booty Latinas out there, just for Kissy Cat.
This message is sponsored in part by.
And Harry is booting Ditso. Ditso, I'm going to give you 60 seconds to summarize what you're saying much quickly.
Simple. ICE is a terrorist group. It's a criminal association, and it's a federal criminal association that deserves to be punished for violating human rights. That's what they are. And anybody who supports that supports terrorism.
Oh, wow.
Right. See, he can be concise. He can do it. He can do it. He chooses not to do it.
So
10 minutes in the back, Ditso. Go ahead.
The reason I asked the original
Nampan's so pretty and nice and a
I
good
love
person.
Pretty. What the hell?
Oh my. So the reason I asked the original question was because we all agree that there's a certain amount of rights and there's a certain amount of process that people go through whenever they're being prosecuted for certain crimes. It's not as simple as, oh, you jaywalked or, oh, you did a civil offense, so we're going to get you out of the country as quick as possible with no ability for you to like that's not how our immigration system is supposed to work. A lot of the reasons that Donald Trump is able, even kind of like has the ability, like the cloak of able to do any of this is because he's invoking emergency powers. This isn't normal. Okay. The things that we're seeing aren't normal. These aren't normal criminal punishments. These aren't normal civil punishments either. So like there's process that we need to go through, and everyone is so willing to look past that because we just see criminal, and then our like American like tough on crime brain kicks in, and we feel the need to kick them out of the country as quick as possible. That's not how this system's supposed to work.
Jaywalking is a city offense. Crossing the border is a national
Crossing
issue.
The border is a civil offense. It's not a federal crime.
Ringold, I will say that there's a lot of illegal immigrants have built up over the years, and right now it's reached kind of like a bit of a critical point. So right now we should just go and try to get back to like 0.0 or as close to it as feasibly possible. And then after that, then we could potentially go and put forward with new measures after we go and fix immigration law. Because right now it's like a ship that has a lot of water and it's kind of slowly being dragged down, and we just need to bucket it out.
Does Donald Trump have a border bill in place? Does he have any plan other than just aggressive policing?
He got the law as it's written right now.
Yeah, he's abusing
aggressive
policing.
I love how my chat is aggressively policing my panel and booting everybody you're all just getting deported. You're getting fired, and you're getting fired, and you're getting fired from the panel. All right, Rinyald, 5 in the back.
This is capital.
I do take issue with Evan's framing here. Like this is sinking our country. I would posit that the response to immigration and the problems that it arises by Trump and by ICE is what's going to be that sinks the ship. We have a few holes in the ship, and they're trying to fix that by taking a rocket launcher and blowing up the ship and saying, in the middle of the ocean, we're going to blow up our ship, and then we'll fix it. Then we'll put it back together once we've blown it all up. No.
But there's another aspect here that you haven't even mentioned. No one here has touched it. The aggressive enforcement has acted as a deterrent to the flood of legals that were coming across the border. Those are the ones that this is actually
the flood of legal immigrants, and it's deterred.
Okay, sure. I'm not trying to conflate the two like you are. I'm trying to make the point of illegal immigration has plummeted. Plummeted.
So, I mean, I think that's a bad thing, but also, again, like Renner was talking about, this is not normal enforcement, right? This is Trump invoking emergency powers to do
this. This is normal enforcement. Barack Obama did the same damn thing.
Did Barack Obama ever invoke the Alien Enemies Act?
Who did Barack Obama send to CCOT? Who did he send to a foreign prison?
To be fair, CCOT wasn't built yet.
But you understand my point. Who did Obama? Because we're not talking about deportations only. We're talking about sending them to foreign prisons, which is a different thing, and let's not conflate the two.
Well, speaking of foreign prisons, ladies and gentlemen, I'm officially shutting down the tomato side. Don't worry, it's automatically set to raid over to the gauntlet. If you're already over at the gauntlet, congratulations. You know how to listen and listen well. The rest of you, 130 of you, let's see, there's 80 smart people over on the gauntlet side. There's still 130 of you not listening and paying attention to what I'm saying. All right, I'm shutting down Tomato. I'll drop the link back in the chat again. Otherwise, catch the raid over to the gauntlet. Same show, different channel.
Who gave you